Guys, Fantastic Four First Steps is finally in theaters with a whole new cast and a bigger and badder villain than ever featured before. I had the chance to sit down and talk with some of my friends about our thoughts with this movie, and turns out it's a lot more divisive than we thought before. So, as always, welcome to the Movie Couch. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the second episode of the Movie Couch, and today I am honored to have here in the house, of course, Zain. You know him from the last episode, but our very old friend but new guest to the show, Ezra. So welcome to the show, everybody. Hey. We're doing the fourth thing, and today we're talking about Fantastic Four First Steps, which I'm really excited to talk about. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. Ready to talk about this movie.
Yeah, let's get right to it, I suppose.
So, just for off the rip, there will be spoilers, heavy spoilers, obviously, in this episode. So, if you are looking for a non-spoiler review, go watch the movie first and then come back and watch it here. But also, none of us have discussed in depth this movie yet. So, a lot of the reactions are going to be, our first reactions to each other talking about this movie. Because and we'll talk about it here in a little bit. But I guess just, this is the, fourth Fantastic Four film, right?
Yeah.
We're not counting, there is one that was like back in, I think it was like the 50s. That's like really old. We're not counting that one. With the modern era movies, this is the fourth one. So I guess what have been your thoughts?
Four times the charm.
Four times the charm, exactly. Fourth movie. What have been your guys' thoughts on these movies up to this point? Zain, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. The past movies, I know everybody memes all of them. I know the 2015 one. That's been a little bit popular because of some of the clips. Say that again. Yeah. And I don't know. I'm pretty sure the 2015 one was probably the worst out of all of them. People didn't really like that one. I know the one before that was the one with Chris Evans as Johnny.
Yep.
That one was really good. That's probably like the best depiction for Johnny.
Okay.
That's probably what I'm gonna be. That's gonna be my theme during this podcast. I'm gonna be a Johnny fan here. Okay, so I like Fantastic Four, but I like Johnny the most.
Okay.
So I feel like he's a good fit. But I haven't seen the other ones, so I wouldn't have an opinion on those.
Yeah. Ezra, what's your thoughts been on the Fantastic Four, I guess, in film up to this point?
I've actually never seen the 2015 film. I know going into this one, what was funny is my sister, she actually thought that this movie was a sequel to the ones that came out in the early 2000s, so the one with Chris Evans. Okay. She thought this was a sequel to it, and so she was a little confused. She was looking at it and being like, well, where's Chris Evans? Where's Captain America? He was in Deadpool, so isn't he supposed to be in here? I'm like, oh, no, this is a reboot. So I have seen the first two that came out. The first one was in 2005, I believe, right?
Correct, yeah, 2005, yep.
So I've seen that one. I actually grew up with it. I would watch it all the time whenever it came up on TV when we had cable. And then I remember the Silver Surfer one. That one, not too much. I've only seen it like once or twice. So, I did remember liking the first one a little as a kid.
Yeah.
I haven't rewatched them since. So, my opinions would probably vary a little since then. But that's how I feel currently.
Yeah, I think I have a mix of opinions, kind of like you guys. I think I grew up watching I actually might have ironically seen Rise of the Silver Surfer first before the 2005 one. But I remember like when the 2015 movie came out, I remember so much hype being behind that because it was like the revival of this old movie series. And then I remember coming out and then all the memes coming out, like the Fantastic Boar is what people were calling it. And I remember at that point being a huge fan of Miles Teller, who plays Reed Richards, and Kate Mara, who plays Invisible Woman, Sue Storm. I remember being huge fans of them as actors. And I remember, again, this was 2015, so I would have been 14 years old when this came out. I remember not having like a strong opinion either way. I probably liked it, knowing myself back then.
Were they like younger depictions of those characters, or like why were they?
Yeah.
I don't really feel like they fit for who they are.
Yeah,
trying to play.
That's a good point. It actually leads into one of the questions I had earlier for my own questions I was going to ask you guys. Is I do feel like this is very interesting because the 2014 or 2015 version, they are younger versions, right? They seem to be kids and stuff when they get their powers versus when we're going to talk about this 2025 version with First Steps. There seemingly are adults at this point when they get their powers. They go to space. They go on this mission. So I think it's very interesting kind of twist, I guess, and that will lead into some later conversations. So, do you guys have any more thoughts on the old movies before we transition?
Nothing I can think of. No.
Okay. So I know the next thing we had drawn up here to talk about was the production and direction of this movie. So obviously, this movie here, it was directed by, I want to pull this up here, Matt Shakman, who directed WandaVision in the MCU. So he does have some history into this world. He also has directed a couple other small movies, which I'm not super familiar with. Looking at the letterbox, he's directed episodes from It's Always Sunny, Fargo, Game of Thrones episodes. So he seems to be a TV guy. And then now he's being thrust
WandaVision's
into a movie.
WandaVision was a good series when that was out.
Yeah.
I love WandaVision.
I think WandaVision is like actually one of the better MCU shows now looking back at it. But I guess what's your guys' opinion? Obviously, you guys have both seen WandaVision, right? So I guess is it a bit of a weird situation that you get a TV director to essentially come and make a full-length movie? So I guess what's your guys' thoughts on that?
So I feel like so he did WandaVision, Game of Thrones.
Yep. He did episodes of Fargo, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, The Great, which I know of. So yeah, I mean, it is an interesting thing. I do remember seeing...
Yeah, this is definitely interesting. I think it was good directing. I feel like there was another aspect. I don't know if we have it mentioned anywhere. I think we don't, but I think the editing for the movie, like the final edits for it all, was where this movie kind of flopped.
Yeah.
I feel like the director was a good choice. He didn't do anything wrong, I think, during this entire movie. He had some good vision for what he wanted to do for the Fantastic Four. Try to show like some sort of backstory for the Fantastic Four, but not go too in depth into it. They kind of pulled like a Superman again, like how they had just the story already developed for the Fantastic Four. They're already an organization. They already have their big four building in New York, and it's like now it's now they're like the world's superhero, right? And it's like they're like they have Nobel Peace Prize or whatever, Sue Storm and all that stuff. That was interesting to see. Showing them all that the backgrounds and stuff for that. I thought that was cool. But yeah, I don't think I had any other opinions about the director.
Yeah, Ezra, what were your thoughts on just the direction?
In terms of directing, I think it was interesting because going into this movie back in 2022, it was actually revealed that John Watts, the director to the Spider-Man trilogy with Tom Holland, was going to be the guy who would direct this movie. So I remember initially when he was revealed, a lot of people weren't too happy with that choice. Mm-hmm. And it seems like he fell out of the project for whatever reason. But Matt Shakman, he's got I think he has a good solid, what would you call it? He's got a good solid amount of entries under his belt, I think. And I can't really speak too much on directing because I feel like it wasn't too adventurous with the camera work and all that stuff. It kind of just what you would expect from a Marvel movie, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think one of the questions that I think I want to talk about at the end of this episode once we kind of summarize some things, because I think it's a point that I thought of that hasn't been discussed widely, and it does go into the direction a little bit where I agree with Zain. Would you comment about the editing? Right, I think the editing is perhaps one of the big pitfalls that this movie, has. Ezra, your comment about John Watts, I think it is a very interesting thing because John Watts obviously has a lot of experience in the MCU, right? Doing all the Spider-Man movies. He's done Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home, right? Like he did that trilogy. And just from my own opinion, I think those are really good movies. I don't think they're probably the best Spider-Man movies out there. I do like No Way Home. But I think they're very, very solid entries. I think this guy kind of knows how to engage with superhero movies in general. And then going back to Matt Shakman, like we mentioned previously, he's done WandaVision. He has some of these experience. I think this movie is shot very much like a TV show at times. I think the way it's edited,
you can definitely tell.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Like it's like WandaVision. He had that theme going on for one of those episodes where it was like a sitcom.
Yes.
And then they also had it like I feel like I got a lot of Loki vibes from it too.
Sure.
Like how the Loki series, he was very old school. They were trying to do the TV a lot. And that little zone that he was in.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was called, but that was kind of what I was getting like familiarity from.
Sure. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. So all right. So I guess any more thoughts on that? Because I want to talk about the rumors before this movie, because there were a lot of rumors and things that were coming out before this movie's release. I have a couple that I'll go with off the rip here. And just talking about, did any of these rumors or like TikTok trends you see or Instagram posts, did it affect your opinions of going into the movie? So there was two things I wanted to talk about, and I'll go ahead first. Was the first thing was a funny one. So Herbie, they released a soundtrack to this movie. I want to ask you guys if you guys heard this rumor or not. There was a lullaby song that Herbie sings, and they posted it with the soundtrack and stuff. And it's like a really sad version of Herbie singing like "Go to Sleep, Franklin," like this song. And people like all over TikTok, at least, were just screaming, I swear if Herbie dies, I'm going to like do something tragic, I'm going to like do all this stuff. So were you guys part of that I guess trend on TikTok? You guys see that?
No, I didn't see pretty much any like rumors or spoilers. I was trying to avoid everything, so I avoided trailers, avoided anybody talking about it, just so I could get my first hands on it.
Sure.
Other than those rumors, like I know the other rumors that we're talking about, like how when people were at the premiere and stuff, like old Fantastic Four actors, and then I think what was her name? The ex, the chick from Logan, the little girl.
Oh, Daphne King. I did see her there. Yeah.
She was there, and people were like, everybody was speculating, they're gonna be in the movie, stuff like this, and I was like, okay, let's see how they're gonna fit that in there.
Sure.
But that's all I really.
Yeah.
noticed.
Did you see any like leaks or anything beforehand coming out?
I am very much like Zain, where I have the mentality of where I'll maybe look at a trailer for a movie, but aside from that, I won't go out of my way to really dig deep and look into things. And it's been like that for quite a while. I think the last movie where I actively engaged with the community was probably No Way Home.
Okay.
And as you know, that movie got leaked with a lot of stuff, which in turn did kind of ruin the experience for me a bit, because I kind of already knew what to expect.
Sure.
So with movies like this now, I don't really go beyond the first trailer. After that, I just wait till it comes out.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I think both of you guys tend to stay away from spoilers and stuff. I myself I'm an individual where unironically, the weekends, a lot of my time is spent at the theater. So I end up just getting exposed to trailers after trailers after trailers. And I feel like one of the first spoilers I'll mention here is that I wonder how many people went into this movie thinking that Franklin was not going to be a big part of it. Because obviously, the whole movie is called First Steps, right? It's teasing that the baby's going to be taking steps. It's like the birth of a new team, that sort of idea, right? But in one of the later trailers that they released later, they did show Franklin being like interacting with his parents and stuff like that. So I kind of wonder, like how many people like yourselves perhaps didn't see any of the trailers and thus went into this movie and didn't even think that Franklin was going to be part of it. Like maybe Franklin was going to be like the last 10 minutes. They were going to, Sue was going to give birth and that part. So, which I think is very interesting. So, any other thoughts on rumors or anything like that? Let's go to the next. So the next one I think is interesting because we all saw it at different times and in different like theater experiences. So just what was your experience at the theater? So I went, like I said, Thursday opening night. It was super, super fun. There weren't a ton of people like dressed up or anything like that, which surprised me a little bit. I know, Ezra, you saw it on a Thursday afternoon, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And then Zain, you saw it on a Friday evening. So we all saw it opening weekend.
Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night. So we all saw it at different times. Was there anything like crazy or like was there tons of people cheering at your premiere? Like how did that work?
Not really anything for me. It was pretty quiet most of it. There were some parts in the movie where people would laugh and do that. Sure. I did want to note that like the buying those tickets before, like by comparison with Superman and for this,
sure.
The Superman movie, when I was trying to look at it, like Thursday and Friday, those opening days, they weren't even sold out, and people like it wasn't. There were still tickets available where you could get it, right? And it was like in the middle of the week. Sure. But I was checking like early this week for the Fantastic Four, and it's like Thursday's like a good time. It's all sold out. And Friday's like kind of sold out too. They have so many timings, and it's like, I'm like, oh wow. So the Marvel crew's coming in, like everybody wants to watch the Marvel movie, which I thought was crazy.
Yeah, that is fascinating. Okay, Ezra, were you able to get your tickets pretty quickly? Like going off that, like
the theater I go to is a little bit smaller. It's about like maybe 15 minutes where I live.
Sure.
So it's not really known for being like the best place ever, but when I got my tickets, there was still like a good handful of seats, and then even in the theater, as I was watching, there wasn't really too much cheering or stuff like that you would expect with some of these Marvel movies. And it's interesting to hear what Zain says about like Superman and stuff. I think part of the reason why Superman is probably going a little bit slower than Fantastic Four is probably because this is DC trying to get back up after, quite a few duds of a movie. And I think, especially with like Marvel, they've had a better track record as far as theater experiences and stuff. Like even Thunderbolts, I didn't think it was amazing, but it was still a good time.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's, it seemingly is Fantastic Four is doing crazy at the box office. I mean, I'm just looking here quickly. Variety put out a post saying that it had a $57 million opening day, which I would assume that would be Thursday, which that's a lot for an opening day. And I will say this, going off what Zain said compared to Superman quick. There were a couple times like the once I think during the movie, I think is when Galactus first showed up, the people cheered a little bit. And then at the end with one of the post credits with the mid credit scene, I guess, which we will talk about later, there was like a huge cheer when that happened. Like it was like everyone got up and was like excited.
When was that?
The mid credit scene.
Oh
yeah, so everyone got up and cheered for that, which was interesting because it did happen a couple times during Superman as well. There were some cheers and stuff that happened. So I would say personally, from my experience, it was probably even between Fantastic Four and then Superman. But I think they've been both fantastic. Again, they've both been fantastic. Oh my gosh. Pause. Wait.
Fantastic.
But yeah, again, going on a Thursday night, I don't think there's an experience that can beat that.
Hot take. I'm just gonna say this now.
Okay.
Superman was low-key better.
All right. Well, that's one we're gonna talk about later. That's one of the questions I had at the end, comparing some stuff. So.
Okay.
Hold your horses there. So.
All right.
So, next question. I wanted to break down. So we have several major parties here during like this, in terms of parties, like groups in this movie, right? We obviously have the Fantastic Four, and then we have what you call like the evil side, the villains, right? Where you're gonna have Galactus and Silver Surfer, and I want to break Galactus and Silver Surfer up separately. So first of all, thoughts on the Fantastic Four. Do we compare, like I said, 3 iterations, right? We have the 2005 version, right? We have the 2015 version, and now we have a 2025 version, which I think is interesting because they're in blocks of 10 years, which is an interesting comparison. So I guess that begs the question, in 2035, are we going to get another Fantastic Four reboot? So, but I don't know, just thoughts on the Fantastic Four. Like, what were your guys' opinions on this casting?
I like the casting. I think everybody fit really well.
Okay.
Pedro Pascal is Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue, and then I forget the other two.
There should be Joseph
I know
Quinn as Human Torch, and then Ebon Moss-Bachrach as the Thing. I think it's the Thing.
Yeah, I know Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things. I didn't really recognize him at all. When I was watching the movie, because I was like, he looks way different than he does in Stranger Things. You know, he's like playing a kid in that.
Yeah.
And in this, he's like a full-grown adult, or whatever. But I don't know. I think it was a good casting. Everybody fit really well. You could see that there was some good chemistry going on. My initial thoughts on the movie was that I felt like it was a little too short. Even though I know when I was watching with my friend, he said it was like, he kept asking me how long the movie was, and I was like, I told him this total screen time, and then he was like, oh, this feels like it's longer, and I was like, oh, I had a different opinion. I was like, oh, I think it's a little too short, like, because some of the scenes in the movie where they first started, like when they first went to go see Galactus, I thought that was like the midpoint part of the movie, and then I was like on and on from there. But yeah, we can go more into that. But
I said just to stay on topic because we're just talking about the casting of the Fantastic Four right now. Ezra, what were your opinions on that?
I believe so. Again, I haven't seen the original movie in like 15 years.
Sure.
Well, I was a little kid when I saw them. I thought this cast was really good. A lot of chemistry between them, I feel, especially between Vanessa Kirby and Pedro Pascal. You know, a good couple, I feel. I had no idea Joseph Quinn was in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Because I've only seen the 4th season, like halfway through, and then after that I stopped watching. But it's interesting to see him in this. He definitely looks a little different than I last saw him.
Sure.
Yeah, I definitely do feel they felt more like a family here than I feel they've ever felt in any live action adaptation. So you can really get a feel for like Marvel's first family in this one.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think that this is, like I said, by far the most family, and they're really working together as a team. Although I do have a couple gripes I want to talk about later when we talk about some of the cons of this movie. But I will agree. I think there is a great chemistry. You really feel that between Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby. I think Joseph Quinn is a very interesting spin on the character. And I think Ebon Moss-Bachrach, as I've known him from The Bear. I'm a big Bear fan. I think he's great in that show. I think he does fine in this iteration. But one thing I wanted to talk about is, while I think the chemistry's there, I actually don't quite like some of the castings in this movie. Specifically, Pedro Pascal. So I'm someone who, I go to the theater a lot. I see a lot of these movies, right? And this is the line. I think there's a very distinct line between Pedro Pascal and Joseph Quinn in this movie in terms of how it's cast. Pedro Pascal, again, great actor. Love him. But maybe I'm just Pedro Pascal out because I've seen basically 3 or 4 new movies this year with Pedro Pascal in it, right? We've had Materialist this year. We've had, obviously, this movie. I'm trying to think what else we had this year. We've obviously had The Last of Us this year, which that's just a topic in itself. Eddington this year, it came out this year with Pedro Pascal. My problem with Pedro Pascal is this. I want to see if you guys agree with this. It's hard for me to blur. The lines get blurry between what is Richard, what is like Reed, and what is Pedro Pascal in this movie. I can't. It's very different than Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man, right? I felt like those two were like Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man. I don't see Pedro Pascal is Reed Richards. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. There's a very distinct, and I don't even know how to quite to iterate it. It's just I feel like Pedro Pascal is putting on a bit, and I can't get past that. So I want to see what you guys' opinions on that.
Yeah, I feel like he's like one of the most like popping actors in the world right now. So giving him this role for one of the most iconic characters in Marvel, Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, I feel like he was at times, like how they had like the school version of him, like explaining and talking to the kids and doing all this stuff. He would go into bits where he would be like trying to be super smart and try to show off that Reed Richards vibe, but it would also be like you couldn't like really tell him becoming like a superhero. Like like where are those parts of him? And I see where you could say like, yeah, Pedro Pascal doesn't really fit that, and they just got him for the name probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ezra, did you have any? Ezra, did you have any thoughts on that? Like specifically Pedro Pascal. Do you like him? Do you not like him? Or
I thought he was fine. I personally don't have too much of an issue with him being in so many movies because, frankly, I don't watch too many movies.
Yeah.
So like I haven't seen Gladiator yet. I haven't seen The Materialist. I haven't even seen The Wild Robot, which came out like sometime last year. I think the last movie that I saw that he was in. And let me see if I can sort this. I'm taking a look at Letterboxd right now.
And while you're looking, good.
The last thing I saw him in was in Wonder Woman.
Okay, yeah. So
and he was very different in that movie. Yeah. So it's been a good few years. I have seen him in Mandalorian.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how I feel about that show is a whole other topic. But I don't know. I thought he was fine. I personally had no issue.
Yeah. And I think what I'm trying to say is I think there's a very big difference between Pedro Pascal and Joseph Quinn. I love Joseph Quinn in this movie. I think he's fantastic. He's amazing. All right, I gotta stop doing that. He's amazing in this movie. And the reason why I want to say is this. All right, we keep referencing Stranger Things, which I think is one of his better roles. But I think is also by far his probably his most famous role. I want to try to share. So when we look at his filmography here, he was in Gladiator last year. He was in A Quiet Place Day One, which I think he's fantastic in. He's in a movie called Warfare, which came out earlier this year. Very, very small role in it. But I think he's amazing in that movie as well. He's doing a fantastic job with just these small kind of character roles that, to me, and I love Chris Evans. I love Chris Evans' version, but I think Joseph Quinn puts a spin on it that I see him as Human Torch more than I see Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. Exactly what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So,
I think Joseph Quinn for sure has had better luck out of all the Stranger Things cast when it comes to movies.
Yes.
And I think part of that is just his ability as an actor to get really engrossed into the role and becoming part of that character rather than a caricature.
Yeah. And actually that's... Go ahead, Zain.
I was gonna say, I also feel like he was more so like just playing Reed Richards. Like you didn't really see him as Mr. Fantastic that much in this movie, or like doing anything. Like you would have like cuts or clips where he's using his powers here and there, and it's just it's like dumb little things. Him putting something over here, him stretching over there to help with something, which is fine. Like that's what he does. But like, why are we just exaggerating this point when we should just be? He should just be doing it as a superhero, which I thought was kind of annoying compared to like how Joseph Quinn with his Johnny, like we saw that constantly. Like we saw him using his powers, we saw him doing the stuff, going after the Silver Surfer, and then just in general.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. So I want to wrap that up about those two characters. I want to go and transition to the other two. So Vanessa Kirby and then Ebon as the Thing. I thought those two were great. I think personally playing the Thing has to be such a complicated role, right? Because it's not like he's actually getting into a suit, and he can kind of walk around and interact with the characters. He's just wearing what I would assume is a green screen suit with a bunch of little balls and stuff on it that he's just, stomping around and stuff. And that can't be an easy role. I will say this. I want to get your opinion on this as well. I love the down to earth that he seemed to be the most down to earth of them, right? I think, obviously Reed, he's smart. He's the smartest out of them. Vanessa Kirby, very socially aware and interacting with the government. She, like you mentioned earlier, the Nobel Prize. But him, like, he's the only one that's like interacting with the kids, right? He goes on these walks. He mentions in the movie that whenever he's in his old neighborhood, he feels at home, right? I thought he's probably the best thing that we've had so far. Not to make the pun, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I feel like that character of him that's what he is, definitely, for sure.
Yeah.
He's still that character we see in Marvel and in just in general. He's always fighting himself because of his appearance and his look and his powers, right? So we definitely get that side in this movie where we see him walking around, going to his cookie shop, getting those cookies, picking up the cars for the kids, which was very fun. I also feel like that scene with I forgot the girl's name.
Are we talking about his love interest?
Yeah, that he was talking to.
It is Natasha Lyonne playing Rachel Rosman, who I'm not familiar if Rachel Rosman is someone from the comics or not, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either. I'm pretty sure it's somebody else. But I feel like that dynamic was supposed to be expanded in this movie, and it was just cut or something, because you could tell that they were trying to do something with them, and they were setting it up, and I don't know, it was like lots of cuts and weird parts in this, especially when he went into the what was the place called, the Jewish
like the
synagogue or something like that.
Yeah, he walked in there and then he said hi to her and then he came for her or whatever, and then boom, cuts to some other scene. And I'm like, okay, that's it.
It definitely felt underdeveloped for him in that regard.
True. Yep, I agree. Sure. And so I'm looking here at the Wikipedia, and I'm pulling up. There's basically nothing on Rachel Rosman. So seemingly, I don't know. I mean, it seems like his main love interest, according to the comics, was a character called Debbie Green. But Rachel Rosman, according to the Wikipedia, is most likely named after Rosalind Roz Kirby, who's the wife of Jack Kirby. Who, again, actually, Jack Kirby, being the creator of the Fantastic Four, gets a little, kind of thank you in remembrance of at the end credits. So who knows? They obviously are remembering the life of Jack Kirby. Maybe they just renamed the character just to kind of, again, still trying to give some sort of, nice resemblance to the creator of the Fantastic Four. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, and then lastly, I wanted to mention, again, we talked a little bit about Vanessa Kirby. What you guys' thoughts on Vanessa Kirby? I thought she did great. Again, Ezra, I want to pinpoint what you said, because I thought you said something really cool about Joseph Quinn. In that Joseph Quinn, I think, has done a fantastic job, better than the rest of the Stranger Things cast, in that he's doing a great job of getting these characters he can dive into and really kind of become that character. Looking at Vanessa Kirby's filmography, I wanted to mention a couple things here. So first of all, she's a very accomplished actor, right? She's been in big budget movies like the Mission Impossible, which Ezra and we have talked about that privately on our own. We really enjoy those movies. I think, Ezra, would you agree she does a great job in the Mission Impossible movies?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think she does a fantastic. I can't stop saying fantastic. She does an incredible job in this.
Feeling fantastic.
Exactly. I want to mention one thing quick. She was in a movie that I saw a couple years ago, called Pieces of a Woman, which is probably one of the greatest pieces of acting that I've ever seen, like ever. And it's her as the lead role, basically as a mother who recently lost a child. And it's just her going through this grieving process. So she's a very interesting actor, right? Because again, you have those Mission Impossible movies where they're big, CGI, Tom Cruise, action films. But then she also has like the movies like Pieces of a Woman, where she's, I believe, was nominated for an Academy for that movie, and just an incredible piece of work by her. And then you have this, which I think is very interesting as well. So I guess what's your guys' thoughts on her portrayal? Because I thought she did great. So
yeah, she definitely was good. She was like another key highlight of this movie. It was the main focus. Sue Storm, Invisible Woman. They were trying to make her, because she had a lot of scenes where they showed off that other than superheroes, that's what else she does. She was part of I think it was like, what is it, the UN probably version from Fantastic Four. And she was, the peace broker person with the Subterranea or whatever. They had that whole moment with that guy. She definitely had her moments. She was great. I feel like some of, I forget, it was like I think we're probably gonna mention this later, but like with the baby stuff, him and Reed Richards, with them all having that fight, that little fight that they had, I thought that was a good scene as well.
Yeah. And Ezra, what were your thoughts on Vanessa Kirby's Sue Storm?
I thought she did fairly well. I would say that in some areas it felt like she was the main character.
True.
Especially compared to Pedro Pascal, I think. For the later half. I think she's definitely likable as a character too, which is important to have. I do think I kind of wish, this is just how I feel about most of them here. I kind of wish we did see more of her powers and stuff, because I feel like we hardly ever got to see any of that, especially for her and Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So Pedro Pascal and her, we see her toward the end, finally using like a bunch of her force fields and all that, but nothing really involved with invisibility and why she's called the Invisible Woman.
Yeah. She does. I do appreciate that. She was able to make like their ship invisible a couple times, so we did get to see that a little bit. But yeah, I think what you're speaking of is completely true, but I think it's part of a larger issue that I want to talk about later in the episode. So
I like how you mentioned that, like with the invisible thing, like she would make the ship go invisible or anything like invisible, and then instantly it'd be like they'd get found, or it wouldn't do anything, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, did we have any thoughts on that? Otherwise, we're going to transition to Galactus. Okay, so Galactus, obviously in this movie, is portrayed by Ralph Ineson, who very, very famous for his distinctly deep voice, and I think he's like the greatest voice they could have gotten for this movie. If they had just gotten like some other famous actor who has like a kind of a famous voice, and then they just manually tweaked it, because there were some interesting interviews with Ralph before this movie where he was saying that this role was actually one of the most challenging for him, because he had to find new gears in his voice, like new levels to hit for some of the really deep parts. I guess overall, the voice, the portrayal, what are your thoughts on Galactus?
I love Galactus. Okay, he's one of my favorite, like probably Marvel villains, and just in general because he's so cool looking. His depiction in this movie, we can talk about that a little bit, but I thought he did great. I thought it was a great look of the character, very menacing. When his first appearance came up, when the team showed up and they saw him for the first time, that was very cool, menacing. I definitely thought, this is just my opinion, but I definitely thought he would at least be a little bit bigger. You know how he just came onto the city on Earth, and he was just like a city size giant. But like, I don't know if you want to bring up this picture that I have of him. This is usually what he's depicted as, because he's a world eater. that's what he is. And I know people are probably going to mention this in the comments or anywhere else, that he in the comics or anywhere else can change his size for wherever and whenever he is. But if that's the case for this, like he should have been shown as the big guy first, and then they could have done that later,
absolutely.
just as his first look. But I definitely liked his voice. I liked everything about him. I thought it was very interesting how they were showing off his eyes, and then how they were showing off his he had like two different eyes, his purple eyes and then his glowing eyes. I'm not too sure about what the difference is in that from the comics or whatever. It might be one of his powers or something. But when they showed off that scene where he wanted the sun, and Vanessa staring into his eyes, I thought that was a very cool scene. And then all of a sudden she started having contractions, and then but yeah, that was my opinion about Galactus.
Ezra, what about your opinions?
I thought they did a wonderful job on him. He definitely felt intimidating in the movie, which was something that I felt was very, very important for a character like this. You need to show him to be a threat. This is a guy who can eat a planet, right? So I'm glad that they're able to do him justice in that department. I thought his voice... who was the guy that voiced him again?
Ralph Ineson. I believe he's
he did great.
Is he known for anything else?
Yeah, so he's in a lot of other movies, and so I can pull it up here. I'll show it. So he's in Harry Potter. He's in almost all of them. I believe he's one of the professors, I think. And then he's also in Nosferatu, which came out last year. He's in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, I guess, as a pilot. But he's in a lot of other films that kind of that iconic, deep voiced, kind of menacing character. So yeah. And I don't know if you were done with your thought, Ezra. Just going off what you two said, I completely agree. I think Galactus in this movie is incredible. I think he's intimidating. He's huge. Exactly what you said. For someone of this character and size and weight in the MCU and just in Marvel Comics, you need to, like, if he was tiny the entire movie, I think this would suck. There would be no seeming threat and stuff. I think it's very interesting how, he does have those two kind of sets of eyes. I think it's fun. He has this like that scan ability where he's scanning the city for Franklin. And exactly what you said. I thought he was super detailed in the movie as well. As many gripes as maybe later we'll talk about with some of the CGI, I thought he was incredible. I thought he looked not only just menacing, but something at that size. It's hard to get detail down. And I thought he was very detailed as well. So
yeah, for sure. I thought the CGI for when they were going to show him on the planet would be ass, but it was definitely very, very cool. When he landed, he definitely had that presence and that aura of when he jumped off of his throne.
Yes. And
he landed in the water. It caused a whole tsunami in the city, and then he steps onto the land, grabs the land, and then starts sniffing it for some reason. I don't know if that was like him testing out the goods before he consumes.
Yeah, that's part of it too. The way that I thought about it too is that they mentioned how Herbie went and collected a bunch of materials, and it's like he's got materials from all these like thousands of planets that he's consumed and stuff. So the way I was thinking about it was like it's kind of like him testing this must be some new material that he hasn't experienced before and stuff. So again, don't know if that's true, but it could be an interesting idea. So I guess we can go to the next spot here. Silver Surfer. So obviously the obvious thing is this, right? We've had one movie with the Fantastic Four and the Silver Surfer, and it was a male depiction in that film. Now we've transitioned to a female version, which I think personally, I don't think makes a difference. I don't think it makes a difference, especially in the context of this movie. I love that they gave her a little bit of background and stuff. But before I go my full thoughts, Zain, thoughts on Miss Silver Surfer.
I herald his beginning.
Yeah.
I herald his end, or your end.
Yep.
I herald Galactus.
Mm-hmm.
What is a cool intro piece for this character. I really did not think it was going to be like this when I think I saw like a trailer and then I cut it off from watching it, and then seeing it in the movie theaters was really cool. I got some chills a little bit, but yeah, she's definitely very good for the role. I don't know the actor what she's known for.
So again, if we want to bring it up, I can bring it up for you. All right.
Yeah.
So, or I'll talk about it since I'll show it on the podcast here. So she's been in quite a bit of stuff. She's actually going to have quite a big year too, because she has a couple movies coming out this year. But she hasn't been in like a ton of movies. The most famous one that she's probably been in is Perks of Being a Wallflower, which came out in 2012, which is pretty popular. But other than that, like, she really doesn't have very much, even just that she's been in, let alone like it's popular. Probably the most famous thing that she's been in, and again, I can Google her in a second. I know she was in Ozark, which was a very popular show a couple years ago. She was a very big role in that film, so that show. So yeah, that's probably where most people would know her from, I think. Yeah, Ezra, your thoughts?
Yeah, I did enjoy the intro, like Zain said.
Mm-hmm.
This character has appeared in the comics, albeit very briefly. So it is nice to get like a variation too.
Yeah.
That way there's not too much of a comparison between this movie and the one that came out in 2007 maybe.
Yes, I think 2007. Yep.
Two very similar things. Galactus is coming. You have the Silver Surfer. So it's nice to have that change. I thought Julia did good.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice to have that backstory too, and why she does what she does.
Sure.
And then also just a little bit of redemption for her toward the end. It would be nice to maybe see the character again. Who knows?
Yeah, and I'm sure we will to some degree. But I do want to talk about later. One of the final questions I have for you guys at the end is, I want to talk about that final battle a little bit. But
okay, I was gonna add a little bit for her. I was gonna say like how she had her whole dynamic with Johnny.
Yes,
was very cool. I thought that was great. I thought that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Him having that whole scene with him learning the language that she had, and him like telling her about all those conversations and everything was very cool. I thought that was very sick. I also liked how they had that little moment at the end when they were talking about Johnny was talking about being the sacrifice a lot. I didn't know what direction they were going to be doing for Johnny in this and in general. I know one of my favorite stories from Marvel is from the Future Foundation. So I don't know if they were going to do that, because they had a lot of Future Foundation. They mentioned Future Foundation already, because that was what it was called. So I don't know if they were going to go with that storyline, where Johnny does his sacrifice. But yeah, I really liked how Johnny and her had that little dynamic between them. And I don't know if you wanted to, Johnny's a girl lover, so if you wanted to get that, you could. But I also didn't really like how they cut her off as well. Like, they just showed her, like, in that last scene, pushing Galactus into the little portal thing. Yeah, which I thought was a little weird for an end for that character. But I guess it was fine to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think, again, I want to talk about that last fight scene later at the end of the episode, because I think when we talk about the cons of this movie, I think I want to bring that up, because I think there's a lot of things involved in there that I want to mention. But I will say this. I do like what you said, they give her some background, right? Both of you guys mentioned that. And I think it's very helpful, because it's like, it doesn't just, in the previous iteration, again, to what I remember, the old Fantastic, or the old Silver Surfer he was sent as a messenger, but he didn't have this thing of like, sacrifice me, and then spare my planet. He didn't have this whole story. And it does two things. First of all, allows for a redemption arc for the Silver Surfer, but then also shows that Galactus does have some heart to him, right? He has, or maybe not even heart. He has a brain to him, right? He's not just mindlessly consuming these planets. Is that he, with Earth, if he was able to get Franklin Richards, he doesn't have to eat anymore, right? Because Franklin can then absorb his power and stuff. So I do enjoy that fact of Galactus, is that because he mentioned when they first meet the Fantastic Four that like, hey, I was a man like you, and then I was cursed with this insatiable hunger, right? And I think it's interesting when you see those eyes switch, it switches to a more human-like eye. So the way that I think about it too is this could be just some other creature from another homeworld that looks like a human, but then was cursed, and that's why he's grown to be this big thing. Again, I don't know the comic book backstory, but I think it's a very interesting thing where the Silver Surfer lends so much to Galactus' story. I think they work together very, very well. So, all right. So I know another thing we wanted to talk about here was the score from Michael Giacchino. So Ezra, I wanted to kind of leave this to you. So you're one of the music guys in our friend group. So I feel like you have the most kind of knowledge and stuff about this. So what were your thoughts on Michael Giacchino's score?
I kind of feel that this time around he really didn't do his best compared to some of his previous work, especially. This is kind of the guy who's known for some brilliant Pixar work, such as The Incredibles and Ratatouille. Some wonderful stuff, like even Married Life. The first 8 minutes to like Up are some of the most iconic moments that he's done as a composer. So comparing stuff like that to what he's doing now, not to say that all his recent work is bad, because he's had a few bangers. So The Batman, it was a pretty respectable soundtrack. But for Fantastic Four, there's a lot of stuff in here that feels very much borrowed, and even flat out ripped off of his own older works. Like there's some parts in here where I kind of, I can tell this is supposed to be telling me that this is the 60s or 50s or whatever era this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be like retro, prime time America, And then there's some parts of here where I'm listening to this, and especially now when I listen to it again, it's like this is kind of taken from Lightyear, the movie that came out like a few years back. So, not a fan of that. Definitely feels a little bit forgettable for me personally. Sure. I don't think I'm going to be remembering this theme too much, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, good points. Zain, I guess what were your thoughts on this score?
I wasn't too interested in it. It didn't really give me anything that I would remember. Sure. I probably only recognized like the Fantastic Four little song that they had, which was like, I think it was like opera themed or whatever. I thought that was cool. Other than that, I don't really like, there's nothing memorable that I can think of that really made me be like, yo, this music is really good right now, or something. I don't know if there was any parts where like Galactus, like did he have his own theme?
I don't think he did, because I didn't hear anything.
I don't know if he did, actually.
I think it was just silent the entire time. It was just him walking. Even when he first appeared, like he didn't really have a theme, did he? Like it was just him standing there.
No.
So
I don't know. So I'm looking right now at the actual score. There's nothing called here like Galactus score or anything. There's a couple. There's one called Galactus Case of the Munchies. There's one, I don't know. Galactus / Silver Surfer suit. Is that you call it suit? So there is, I guess, a theme then. So, but again, I don't know, Zain, if that was the last of your point there.
Yeah, that was. It wasn't memorable for me. That's all I can say.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you guys, I like both what you guys said. I think it's not super memorable for me. As you're going back to what you said, I think he's a fantastic composer. I think he's up there with some of the greats, right? I think he's up there. I don't think he's maybe at quite of a John Williams level or anything like that. But again, just looking here at his filmography that he's done, the Batman, No Way Home, and then obviously he has this amazing Pixar run of Ratatouille, The Incredibles. He did Coco, I didn't even think about that. He did Up, like you said. And then he did movies like the Planet of the Apes movies, Dawn, War, and the other one. He did, again, Mission Impossible movies. He did the soundtrack too. And I'll be honest with you, like thinking about it now, exactly what you said. The first 8 minutes of Up, I think, are some of the most beautiful like soundtracks from an animated movie ever. The Batman. I love the Batman theme. It's boring. I know where people get that opinion from, but I love it. I think he did a shoe-in job, right? He probably got called up to do it. He probably had a bunch of stuff left over, like you mentioned, from like a Lightyear movie or something like that he just kind of threw in because it's the same sort of theme. Yeah, I think overall.
Sometimes what ends up happening too is a lot of it, especially for modern movies now, the reason why we have a lot of forgettable soundtracks and stuff like that is because they do things like that. They do placeover. It's this thing called placeover music, where they temporarily put in something to like get a feel for what the scene's supposed to be like. And then eventually what ends up happening is that the composer's like, well, okay, if we're going for something similar, I'm going to just go ahead and take like bits and pieces here and just rearrange them to where it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But, it's the same kind of tone that we're going for.
Yeah.
So that happens a lot in modern music now, which is why we don't get too many memorable themes, I think, now.
Yeah.
Apart from like a few standouts.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's unfortunate, but I do think that's probably what ended up happening here for this movie.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Exactly. So now I want to transition to quickly just some pros and cons, right? We've obviously have talked at length, right, about each of the castings. We've talked about, Galactus, Silver Surfer. We've talked about all the different, we've talked about now music and direction of the movie. So here's just I want to just go over, what's some general pros, right? What worked for you, I guess, is the question I have for you guys. What worked for you in this movie? Zain, you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. I really liked the Fantastic Four theme of family.
Yes.
They all really felt like a family the whole entire time. They were helping each other out. They were having these fun moments, fun bits. It was very big theme throughout the movie that family was what they wanted to show, because that's how the Fantastic Four is. They're mostly family. Reed and Sue being married, and then Johnny being the brother-in-law and Sue's brother, and then Ben Grimm being Reed's best friend, and they all just come together as a family. I really liked how the bits they had where they explained like the dinner scene where they had like I think Sue was gonna be like, oh, you guys are gonna be uncles, and Johnny was getting excited like, we're gonna be the best uncles and stuff like that. I thought that was funny. That was great. Very relatable. I'm an uncle as well, so I'm like, okay, I feel this. And I definitely also liked how like the baby. This gonna be a hint to the cons as well for the baby, but the baby was cool on how they were interacting with it with Johnny and Ben. Ben was holding the baby. I thought that was really cute and fun. But yeah, that's pretty much, I think, most of the pros I would think of.
Ezra, what were some general pros, things that you liked in the movie?
I think the CG, especially for the first half, was pretty well done. When they're in space and all that stuff. The black hole scene was a standout for me, which cool. Doesn't quite touch Interstellar levels for me. Interstellar is like peak for me when it comes to space visuals. But stuff like that was really cool to see. Like Zain said, the interactions between family and stuff like that. This is Marvel's first family, so I think it's very important to show stuff like that. Scenes with the baby and them interacting with it was very cute. And then I think, part of the color grading too was fine for what it was. So you have, it feels like we have color again coming up in movies, especially for superheroes, where, before a lot of it was like gray mush for a while. And I feel like, especially with Superman, you're seeing colors pop out of the screen. So, when they're in space and all that stuff, you're seeing these colors, you're seeing purples, you're seeing yellows, very bright oranges, stuff that pops out like you would see in a comic page. So I appreciate things like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Something I want to bring up too was just in terms of pros. I thought overall the action was pretty decent. I think going off what you said with the CG, we'll talk about some of the uses of the CG of the movie in this in a second here, but I think I actually really liked the stretchiness of Mr. Fantastic. When he's getting pulled apart, I was like, oh, this is kind of gruesome, but it's also like I love it. It's like there's these moments that I think whenever he's flying through the air, I think it looks a little cheesy at times, but I think it's fun, right? And I think my biggest pro with this movie, what works for me, is it's just a fun time, right? And we're finally back to superhero movies that are fun, right? I think we're going to talk later about the future of the MCU. I thought Thunderbolts was a fun time, but then when you go back to like Quantumania, that was just, I did not have fun in that movie, right? You go back to Love and Thunder, that movie was just kind of boring. It wasn't that great. Exactly what you said. We're getting color. We're getting the fun CG at times. It's an enjoyable time to go to these Marvel movies again, and that's like the one main thing that I'm pulling away from this is that, and then also like you mentioned previously, the family element is amazing. So, anything else that worked well that we want to talk about?
Yeah, I was gonna add like the CG stuff, like how the powers with Reed and Johnny. Yes. I think Johnny highlighted it way more better than Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastic, when he had those scenes where they would just show clips of him using his powers, climbing up the building, scaling and stuff like that, or when he was fighting Galactus before that stretch scene, he was like climbing up to him, behind him, breaking his core or whatever like that. I thought that was cool. I also really like I said, like with Joseph Quinn and Johnny, him showing his powers is really cool. Yes. That scene where Reed turns on the teleporter and then the lights go out and then Johnny's just on fire, which was very funny, very cool. It really makes you like, oh wow, his powers are cool. Like you want those powers, right? And then it's just so funny. Reed tells him to go reset the breaker, then he walks the wrong way, walks back with his fire powers on, and I don't know. I thought it was really cool. I feel like that with Johnny, like some of his flames. I wish they had this. Might be like a con, but I wish he said it at least one time. Flame on. Where the flame on at? Nothing. No, nowhere.
Clobbering time, but we didn't get a single flame on.
Yeah, we got so many we got a clobbering time reference in the cartoon, and then Ben says it himself, and then no flame on, nothing. Yeah. So maybe I guess they had it with the toy when he was doing that one time, but it would have been cool for him to say it at least one time. But I think he was cool even when he was fully on fire, because there was parts where he wouldn't be, where his face was visible, and then there would be parts where he was talking to, I think it was the scene where he was talking to Silver Surfer. He was fully on fire, his whole face and his eyes, which I thought was really cool. I think it could have been a little bit done better, but that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually, we can transition to a con, because one of the cons I have a bunch, so I don't know. I'll mention one. I'll let you guys go, and then I'm gonna finish it off because might go on a bit of a rant here. One of the cons I had, and it's not even a con, I'm just confused. I don't know how Johnny's powers work in this movie. Okay, so with Chris Evans' character, the whole thing is like, if he flames on, his clothes burn off if he's not wearing his suit, right? In this movie, it made it understandable at certain times when like he could just light on fire. Like for example, the one example that I think of is when the Silver Surfer first comes down, right? Johnny's just in like regular clothes, right? And maybe I can assume that they're like non-flammable things that Reed's given him. That's fine, right? He goes up, he grabs the board, does that whole transition, then falls back down, but he's still in his clothes, right? Okay, that's fine. The part that I got confused by was when he put on the spacesuit and when they went up to space, like his body is on fire, but then his suit is on fire. So, like, where is the fire originating from? Is it because it's not from his? Is it from his skin, or does he like? Is it like an aura around him that like is on fire, or like how does that work exactly? Because I feel like it's a very different interaction and sort of power that we've seen before. So
it's like his body could just emit like flames and fire, so it's like pretty much anywhere. Like how I mentioned how he said like some of the scenes you could see his face
sure
when he was still flying or doing anything. So like even with that spacesuit, he was still on fire, and you could see his mask. Like he wasn't on full. Maybe he wasn't using full power because of that. So because sometimes he can hold back. So maybe that's what it was. But I'm not too sure. Also with that, like the clothes as well. It was confused. Yeah. I thought for sure at least like one or two scenes he was gonna be on fire and his clothes would burn off or something. But I guess it's very like this part of Earth or this part of the story is very developed where he's used to being on fire all the time. So all of his clothing is flame resistant and all that. So I guess they didn't really want to highlight that too much.
Ezra, did you have any thoughts just in terms of Johnny's power, or?
I thought he was for sure the best used when showing his powers. Like Zain said, the power goes off and he's right there on fire. It's cool to see stuff like that. Just showing like how a person like that would deal with the powers on a day-to-day basis, doing regular stuff. It was kind of cool to see, especially with the spacesuit. I get what you're saying with him. It's a self-pressurized suit, right?
Sure.
So how is fire emitting on the outside of it? And to that, I just say, it's a movie. Try not to think too much about it.
Exactly.
It's a blockbuster.
Yeah, it's my brain. So, yeah.
It was
might have been something that was mentioned by like Reed. I don't know.
It could have been. They did kind of handle that in a way where showing that he was burning up through his oxygen very quickly because of that. So it could just be something that's specially made for his suit.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's get to the con that I know we all want to talk about. Okay, let's talk about the Renesmee baby. Okay, so if you guys don't know, the Renesmee baby is the baby at the end of Twilight. Very famously, it's all CGI, looks horrible. Let's talk about the baby in this movie. Okay, there's times when this baby looks fine. It looks like a regular baby. That's cool. And then there's times, especially early on, this baby, and I want to see if you guys agree with me. Imagine you took like a 5-year-old kid, took like a Snapchat baby filter, put it over its face, and then that's what you used. Because you can tell the CGI baby looks like a baby, but it also looks like it has wrinkles. Like it's an old dude, right? At
it
times.
was like so unnecessary for some of the CGI scenes for the baby. Like I'm not too sure why they did it and what was going on. It was very, very probably the biggest like highlight. Like you could see that like everything else, the CGI with everybody else was amazing. This baby, they don't have baby CGI yet. That's still a work in progress. We gotta get AI on this or something. But the CGI baby just like. I feel like at moments they did not need to have CGI for this baby. They could have he was sitting on his the car seat or whatever at some points, like in the middle of in New York when Galactus was getting him, or somewhere else at the Fantastic Four building. They would CGI the baby like moving around or whatever, looking around. I'm like, just leave the baby. Like he's not doing anything. He's just sitting there. So I'm not too sure why they couldn't just do that. And then the biggest highlight was probably the CGI scene with Sue, when she's at her scene about a dead pretty much, and the baby's like, let me get to my mom.
Yeah.
it was so bad. It was like he's pushing his dad, he's pushing everybody, and he's trying to get to Sue. I thought it was wow, is this real? Like, what is this? What am I looking at?
Ezra, thoughts on the baby?
It's kind of like CG for animals. You can quickly tell when they're using like an actual animal, and then when they're using CG. I kind of found that way with like Superman. You see like a moment with the dog, and like that's It's all CGI. It looks a little cartoony, and it's kind of like that way with the baby, especially. It's worse here because I think it's harder to do humans than animals. Just because we have that kind of like we're able to tell when something's off, that uncanny valley type of thing. But it's like there's parts where the baby's like they're trying to make the baby show emotes or something, showing like confusion or whatever. He's like looking back at Johnny. He's like, "Well, what are you doing here? That looks weird." It's like his mom's dead, and like Zain said, you have like the CG hands or whatever. It's like very strange looking.
Yeah,
you can tell like it's not how you would expect a baby to react.
Sure.
I feel.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think with the baby, what Zain said. There's times where it's like you just completely do not need to CGI this baby, right? Like, I get it when like the baby's firstborn is floating in space. Okay, obviously that's fine. You use a CG baby there. But if it's just Reed holding a baby, get an actual baby. Like with these movies are millions of dollars of budget. Like you're telling me you can't afford a baby to just be held by Pedro Pascal for a 30-second scene, right? Like, so yeah, I agree, and I think it's awkward. I guess at the end, it's reaching for the mom. It's the whole
Yeah, I guess they had to do it as well with the thing for one of the scenes because he was holding him. That was very like a lot of CGI too. Like you see all the baby moving around really weirdly. I'm like, they couldn't just like have a baby like sitting on somebody's hand or something instead of just like having that much CGI. I don't know. I thought it was weird. It could have definitely been done better with the thing as well in that scene. Even though it was a good scene, like that was cute. Like it was nice how he was just holding him. I thought that was cool, but yeah, the CGI for that baby.
Okay, so I want to transition here. I want to give my rating. Let's all give our rating because I think when we talk about the rating, I want to mention some of the other things. The reason why I give it what it is. So does everyone have a rating? We can do it either out of 10 stars or out of 5 stars. What would you guys rather do? Let's do 10 stars. Makes it easy.
Yeah.
All right.
We did 10.
Okay, Zain, tell me out of 10 stars, how many are you giving it?
I'd give it. I feel like I'm around like the 8 out of 10, or like 8.5, 8.8 around there.
All right. Okay, so Ezra.
I would say, kind of thinking about it more, I'd probably give it like a 5 or a 6.
Yeah. So I was saying,
go ahead. It's kind of like that thing where it just didn't really blow me out of the water. It's just kind of average. It's another MCU film. It's fine. It's acceptable. I'll watch it again maybe. So 6.
Yeah. So I'm actually matching you right now. I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. I in a second here, I want to go into why I give this rating because there's a lot of things that work well. Like we mentioned earlier, I think just in general, the casting is great. I think some of the action scenes are fun. But I think there's just so many. What I would say is this: there's not like one glaring issue. That's the only glaring issue. I think it's a lot of little things that just don't work well in the larger picture, and I think that's why I have to give it that 6 out of 10 because it's just it's fun, but it's not a good time. It's you have to overlook so much stuff.
I feel like I didn't mention this for the cons, but I think I would definitely probably go down with my rating for instead of an 8 or 8.8, I'd probably be like 7.5 around there, just because of I didn't mention this for the cons, but like how the editing and the direction of this movie, how I feel like I don't know if this is known, if it's a known thing, but you could definitely tell that Kevin Feige, I'm pretty sure the Marvel's MCU director of all these movies, has definitely edited this movie. You could definitely tell some parts and points in this movie where things were cut out, things were supposed to be dragged on more and shown. Like this movie was supposed to definitely be a little bit longer than just an hour and 55, at least be like 2 hours and 30 or something, 2 hours around there. but it would have been better. I feel like if it was that long.
Yep.
It doesn't hurt that for a movie to be that long, like just to expand on the universe and just to expand on this new group of Fantastic Four. So I you could definitely tell at points in the movie, like, these random cutaways, these random cuts to side characters. I forget who's the lady that Sue walked with in the Future Foundation, the black lady.
I do know who you're talking about. That would be.
They would cut to her so many times in this movie, like just showing her reacting to things and just giving her opinion on or something. And it would be so random and weird that I thought was very unnecessary. And I don't know, like he made these, like, why was this scene shown instead of like something else that could have been more developed with characters, like with Thing and the lady. So I don't know. I thought that part was probably my biggest gripe. What is going on with the editing in this movie?
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's a completely valid thing. I think this is where my gripes with the movie start. I want to go into depth a little bit. I'm going to rant, and then I'll let you guys kind of see if you guys agree with me.
Also, before you start the rant, right? I want to also add that like this movie, when like start to like a finish, it was like I didn't have that feeling that I had with like Superman, where I wanted something more. I wanted more things to happen. Because I was like already expecting it. How we saw. I don't know if we talked about like the post-credit scenes yet, but those, how they just randomly shows Dr. Von Doom. One of these most influential characters in Marvel. And I don't know if there was any build up for him from previous movies, but the big controversy with Doom and how this character is going to be portrayed by RDJ again. It's going to be definitely interesting, but it didn't make me like any more excited. Like I didn't really. Well, I was like, oh, okay, Doom.
I think exactly what you're talking about will be what we'll talk about here in a second. The thoughts on the future of the MCU. I want to get into that because I think it's exactly what you're talking about. So I want to go into, because the reason why I couldn't place this in either cons or the pros, because it's a weird mix, and I think it's exactly what you guys were hitting earlier with the direction. Okay, so I had written down some stuff that these were some of my like reactions coming out of the theater. So and I think it transitions well, like you mentioned, into we talk about Doom, we talk about the future of the MCU, right? I think personally, the Fantastic Four are not being set up in a good way. I think this is actually a failure by Ken Feige, and I think this might just totally flop everything. First of all, you mentioned earlier the CGI kid, right? I don't think that works. We mentioned earlier the Fantastic Four, the final battle, completely to me doesn't work at all, right? I think, and I want to see if you guys agree with me. Would you guys have rather have seen the final battle being what we saw, right? Where essentially Silver Surfer pushes Galactus into the portal, and then like it closes, right? Would you rather have had that? Or what I was thinking, my instant reaction coming out of the theater was, why couldn't we have had, Johnny shooting the flames, Galactus is blocking it with one hand, right? Sue Storm using her powers, he's like trying to block it with his other hand. And then like Reed is like, gets all stretchy and like covers the Galactus's eyes or something like that, right? Like wraps around his head, like gets really, really big. Because again, we didn't get to see really that much of Mr. Fantastic, like offensive capabilities, right? More of just him stretching. Like make him stretch out, like make him be like a giant thing that covers Galactus's eyes, and then have the final, the thing come in and do like it's a clobbering time and just punches Galactus into the hole, right? I would have preferred something along that line, right? Because then it's really enforcing we're fighting as a family, right? Because if you think about it, and Sue Storm is sitting there, basically it's 5 minutes of her just doing this, right? Of her constantly doing this. Reed Richards, the Thing, they're like on the ground. And yes, the Thing helps like topple the one building down a little bit. But I would have preferred a final fight of the four of them really working together, right? Like a big finale thing where it's like they work together at the last second to push Galactus in, and then it's like a win as a team, right? I don't know. What do you guys agree with that? Do you guys like what you saw? Would you guys have preferred something more family?
Yeah, for sure. I think that whole thing with them doing more of teamwork and showing off the powers with Reed would have been very cool, you know. And it also would have been a save for that Silver Surfer character,
Sure.
you know. It would have been she just got cut off again, just left with Galactus into that teleportation. So it was weird to just see her end like that. So it definitely would have been a better ending in that regards. I also thought that it was weird, or I thought it was a little bit cheesy with her dying after that.
Sure.
And then, you know, like it was bound to happen that she was gonna get revived. Like it was kind of getting obvious. So it was like
Yeah, no, exactly. Ezra, did you have thoughts on the final fight?
Yeah, no, it was definitely predictable. You know, you see Sue laying down on the ground, dead.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, waiting for her to wake up. Baby comes over, still waiting for her to wake up, and then she finally wakes up. It's like, okay, she's good.
Yeah, no.
I kind of do think that we did see a little bit of teamwork, and maybe there was a bit more of that we just didn't get to see because it does feel like some of this movie did end up on the cutting floor. Mm-hmm. So maybe there is more, maybe not. But yeah, I kind of agree with you, Isaiah. We probably could have seen
like even with the teamwork and in those scenes where they showed like in the beginning scenes where they had Johnny and Sue like repairing the train, and then they had like the Thing doing some stuff, but I never saw Reed doing anything mostly. Like he would probably do like one or two things and that's it. Yeah. Like I guess they didn't have the funding for this for Mr. Fantastic.
Well, that's literally transition to the second part of my quote unquote rant or whatever I want to talk about. I think the biggest problem that this movie faces is, like I said, not I don't think it's setting the Fantastic Four up well because it's missing some of these, you know, big fight scenes. It's missing like some really teamwork things that we're seeing, and I think it transitions to exactly what you were mentioning earlier, Zain, with the runtime. I think the runtime is very, very interesting. When I saw that this movie was going to be an hour and 55 minutes, I instantly thought to myself, oh, they're doing this to cut budget. Because when you look at the budget of this movie, according to Wikipedia at least, okay, this movie is $200 million, okay? You have a movie like, let's see here, you know, Brave New World is $100 million, you know, Deadpool and Wolverine, $200 million, right? I think if they had given this movie probably the full longer length, it would probably be up into that 250, maybe a $300 million movie. Because again, we're talking here, we're talking about more CG scenes, right? More scenes that are going to require CG, especially for replacing, you know, different, you know, power scenes with their powers and stuff. Like we're just adding more and more budget, right? And we talked about the family, or we want to see more family elements. I think this is a strategic move by Kevin Feige to see, hey, how much can we cut down on a film and still produce a good product, right? You know, essentially we're giving people a shorter time. You know, they're not going to have to be at the theater as long. And for us, it's less time editing as we can push these movies out faster, right? I think it's a very weird move because now we're setting, you know, the Fantastic Four up with essentially a half-baked film. You know, the next time we're going to see them, now that I'm looking at it here, is going to be in 2026 in December in Doomsday, right? And the way I think about it is this, right? Well, let's take Iron Man 1, okay? We have Iron Man 1 and then we have the Avengers, right? I feel like personally, we got a better introduction of Iron Man when we go to the first Avengers than what we're going to get of the Fantastic Four now transitioning to Doomsday. Because in Doomsday, let's be honest, great cast, it's going to be wild. Doomsday is going to be wild, right? We're going to have the X-Men in this movie. We're going to have everybody in this film. Like, how much are we going to see, again, of a good quality Reed fight scene? You know, is Reed going to get big and expand? He's going to be punching, you know, Doom's bots. And, you know, how much of Sue Storm are we going to see her, you know, like disassembling the robots and, you know, doing all those different powers when we have Star-Lord next to her, when we have Thor next to her? Like, how much screen time are we going to give Johnny Storm when we have the entire Guardians Galaxy teaming up with him, right? This is what I'm trying to say is I think we're setting the Fantastic Four up for almost a failure. Like we're not seeing enough out of them. and I don't think we're going to see more of quality scenes with them in future movies. Does that make sense? I know there's a bit of a rant, like I said, but to me, we're not heading towards what I would consider to be success in any way.
Yeah, for sure. Like it didn't really have that feeling either. You know how the old Avengers movies, how you had those end credit scenes or setups for the following movies, you would actually be excited and interested. For this one, it was kind of like, oh, the movie is done, and it didn't really make that big of an impact.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Ezra, any thoughts on what I said? I know it's a long thing I just talked about.
The post-credit scene definitely was underwhelming for me. I was just like, okay, it's obviously a body double for what's supposed to be RDJ.
Yeah,
but we didn't see his face.
I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go on.
Well, I was going to say what I was just talking about and what you just mentioned with the credit scene, with the way we're setting up for Doomsday and stuff. I think it transitions perfectly into what we want to talk about. With what do we think about the future of the MCU, right? I think right now it's a jumbled mess, right? You mentioned earlier, Zain, Kevin Feige obviously coming out saying, hey, we're just completely retconning everything about, Kang the Conqueror. This has been our plan the entire time. Haha. No, that's definitely not what is actually happening. But I guess thoughts on the MCU, right? We have Spider-Man Brand New Day coming out July 2026. Then we have Doomsday in 26, and then we have Secret Wars in 27. Which means in the next 2 years, we're going to have 3 MCU movies. They're spaced out very, far apart and stuff. So, thoughts?
So is it Doomsday first and then it's the Spider-Man movie? Or is it...
No, so it'll be just July 31st, 2026 for Spider-Man Brand New Day. And then December 18th of 2026 for Doomsday.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I'm very interested in to see what the Spider-Man and how Tom Holland can expand his character on there with Peter Parker,
Sure.
to see how the reset of that whole character is going to be, without all the cool gadgets and stuff like that he had. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. It's not going to be like an origin story, probably. It'll just be more like the character, Peter, how he's going on with his life, and then how he's managing Spider-Man throughout that. So it'd be cool to see something that's just Spider-Man and not like, more guest characters coming on to there as well. So that'll be interesting to see, for sure. Hopefully they don't mess that up. But for like just Avengers films, it's going to be very hard for them to live up to these past expectations, with their previous big run that they had with the trilogies and all that. With Doomsday, it's going to be definitely very tough. Like, I don't know what they're going to even do for that. So I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Ezra, what are your thoughts on the future of the MCU? Obviously, we're setting essentially everything up past Endgame to now be in this climatic Doomsday movie. What are your thoughts going into it?
I think that with the failure that was Phase 4, Phase 5 really needs to tread lightly on some of these things. I think in some ways, we need to go back to basics, which in a way we kind of got with this movie. This is like the first MCU movie in a while that I can say, this is a standalone movie that anyone can watch and have like no history or have to do any homework at all about any previous stuff. Someone can just sit down, watch this, and be perfectly content with it.
Yeah.
And I think we do need more stuff like that. We had that in the beginning of Phase 1. We had Iron Man, the thing that started it all. We had Captain America, its own thing. We had Thor, all these different characters slowly being introduced and trickled in. And then for Doomsday, I think you really have to set the scale back because we just got done with Endgame. Endgame was just a huge thing.
Yeah.
And I feel you need to push back a little. You need to show and give these characters room to breathe, because if you just push in and try to make things bigger and better than they were before, it's going to come crashing down. And if Phase 5 doesn't successfully pull this off with the Avengers, we get 2 back-to-back Avengers movies, Doomsday and then Secret Wars in 27. It's like, just reboot it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's any salvaging after that point.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Phase 5 here, it has to be a massive success. Or Phase 6, my bad. Phase 6, I guess, this can be has to be a massive success. The one thing I want to point out too, like with Doomsday, I genuinely have no idea what the direction they're going to go, right? Like even the question of who's going to lead the Avengers, right? Or who's going to lead this next group, right? Because we know confirmed that we're getting, Sam Wilson, right? So he's like the new Captain America, right? So is he going to be leading the Avengers, right, on Earth 616, right?
No, confirmed, I think, by somebody. I think it was a director or somebody that Reed Richards is going to be the leader.
Okay, so that's interesting too, because I was going to say, Kevin Feige recently came out and said that they're going to be recasting Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. So again, I don't know where that's going to be. There's probably some sort of other, multiverse type thing, but it's like we're getting to the point where we have so many characters that, like, if Reed Richards is going to lead the Avengers, then in my opinion, it makes sense because he is the smartest dude. But again, going back to what we talked about Pedro Pascal earlier, I don't really want to see Pedro Pascal lead the Avengers. It just, like, we have Sam Wilson, like, we have these other characters that I in my opinion, I think Thor should be. I mean, he's one of the OGs. I feel like he is a great leader, right? Again, with Pedro, we're transitioning him from a team of 4 to essentially a team of 30 plus, right? 'Cause think about it, we're having the X-Men join too, right? Like, he is all of a sudden going to have this, like, responsibility thrust on him. Not that he can't take that, but I just don't see that quality in currently Pedro Pascal's character.
It's also like how they have those that they had so much build up for the past phases,
Yes.
like Iron Man 1 through 3. I think it's through 4, right? He has 4 movies.
3. Yeah.
3, okay. Yeah. And then same with Captain America, and then Thor, and then every person in the Avengers at least had like a trilogy or something, right? Or some movie, and they made that expanded story for that. For this, it's just now they're just showing these characters, and then now they're going straight into Avengers and combining everybody without not anything going on. Like, it's gonna be definitely interesting for sure. Same with Secret Wars. This is a very hard, very popular event, Marvel like comic series or like storyline. So it's very important how they show off this. Like just in general, because it's first appearance of symbiote Spider-Man, and it's the very first appearance of a lot of stuff. So they got to be careful on what they're doing here.
And I think that's a great way to kind of wrap up this discussion. So obviously we've been talking for a very, very long time, so we want to wrap this up. I guess any closing thoughts? I'm going to be putting Zain's and Ezra's socials down below in the description, so make sure to follow them there. But yeah, any closing thoughts?
Don't mess up Symbiote Spider-Man, Secret Wars. That's it.
Yep, exactly. I think just don't mess up the MCU. We're in a weird spot now. I agree. Yeah. Ezra, any thoughts?
I will say we're getting better movies now, so I hope they can at least maintain that quality. If they can do that, then I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I think they need to. I mean, they need to be making, not only just making back their budget, but they need to be actually actively making money on these movies. So, but Ezra and I even looked the other day. I think this is one of the final big movies of the year. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see kind of where the box office sits. I don't believe this movie is going to be nominated for any awards. I'll say this: if it gets nominated for visual effects, I will commit a crime. But I think that's realistically the only thing it could be nominated for. I don't think it's getting nominated for soundtrack or anything like that. But yeah, like as always, it's been a pleasure to chat with you guys today. So make sure to again follow them down below. I'll use this as a clip for the thumbnail or something. And then Make sure to follow them down below. Make sure to follow my socials down below, and we'll talk next time on the Movie Couch. All right.
Peace.
Yeah.
Peace.